Weather HQ, I'm Paolo del Rosario. This week, we sat down with experts to talk about earthquakes, disaster preparedness, and an exciting event promoting tsunami awareness. First off, I spoke with PHIVOLCS Director Dr. Teresito Bacolcol to explain whether a strong earthquake can really trigger others nearby. Here's a preview of that conversation.
Yes, it's possible. In fact, it happened before, during the October 2019 earthquake series in Cotabato. Nagkaroon po tayo ng what we call stress transfer. So a fault, when it moves during an earthquake, it releases stress, and that stress can be transferred to a nearby fault. But of course, the condition there is that these faults have to be very close to each other. Ang nangyari sa Cotabato, only 5-kilometer distance. So nagkasunod-sunod yung lindol. We have more than magnitude 6 earthquakes, in 4 magnitude 6 and above earthquakes in a span of 1 month. So pwede po yun. But they have to be very close to each other.
When we talk about what happened in Davao Oriental in particular, now shifting to what has happened recently, doublet earthquake, so people are calling it. Is that what happened in this case?
Yes, it's the magnitude 7.4, and then it was followed a few hours later by magnitude 6.8. That's what we call a doublet. Hindi, yung magnitude 6.8 is not an aftershock of the magnitude 7.4. They are different events. Again, a doublet earthquake means two closely timed quakes happening nearby. They happen in the same area, but they have different epicenters and strengths, and they are considered as separate events. Because the magnitude 6.8, again, we don't consider that as an aftershock, because by definition, aftershocks are normally 1 degree lower than the main shock. So magnitude 7.4, we would expect the aftershocks to be around 6.4. But it's magnitude 6.8. So, and this is not the first time that it happened, this doublet. We had this before, last May 17, in 1992. We have a magnitude 7.1 event and another magnitude 7.5, separated by only 26 minutes. So these two events were only 20 kilometers apart from each other. And then another one, we have the most recent would be the 2023 Hinatuan earthquake on December 2, magnitude 7.4. And then 2 days after, another earthquake, magnitude 6.8, was also generated.
So when we talk about the doublet earthquake, you mentioned it a while ago that there's a difference between aftershocks. But then just to re-emphasize that, is the biggest difference dito po yung epicenter and of course yung magnitude po niya, because some people do talk about yung mga aftershocks and still have the measurements, of course, with the magnitude. Pero is the epicenter really what makes it different?
No, they have to be very close to each other.
Okay.
The epicenter, the aftershocks would normally be just around the epicenter. So, but a doublet would be, again, it's like an aftershock, even the location. But it's just, the difference would be the magnitude. Because again, the aftershocks would be 1 degree lower than the main shock. So, and a doublet should be almost the same, or no, not as, hindi masyadong magkakalayo ang magnitude niya from the first event.
Some people are saying, especially with what happened in Bogo City, in Cebu, and then what happened in Davao, na dumadami na daw yung mga earthquakes. Is that the case, or is it just a case of the magnitude and, of course, the location wherein a lot of people have been affected? Is the reason why we're talking about this more. Have the frequencies increased, sir?
No, the frequency before is the same as the frequency of now. Okay, so the frequency of earthquakes before is the same as what we have now. Just that, again, dumadami yung mga tao, and with the advent of the social media, mabilis yung kumalat yung information. So people might think na, okay, dumadami yung earthquakes, but actually, pareho lang yung frequency ngayon at saka frequency before. So for instance, meron tayong magnitude 5.8 sa may Surigao. And ang nakaramdam noon would just be people around Surigao. But since nagpo-post ka agad yung mga tao sa Surigao on the social media, yung mga hindi nakaramdam ng lindol sa say sa Luzon, alam ka agad nila na may lindol sa Surigao. So they have this impression na dumadami yung lindol when in fact pareho lang yan dati. Wala lang makapag-report, there's no social media dati.
Yeah.
So
But
yun, hindi kaagad nakakarating ng information.
Well, Director, we're also looking at Cebu and Davao in particular, and of course yung movement ng mga fault lines nito, of course, that causing the quakes. What was the last significant movements, last significant quake in those areas in particular, in populated areas when we talk about Cebu and in Davao po?
Yung last significant earthquake in Davao would be yung prior to the October 10th event. We have several earthquakes in that area. The 1992 event in Davao, that's magnitude 7.5. So that's quite significant. And in fact, may namatay doon because nagkaroon ng tsunami. And in Cebu naman, ito yung the most recent significant event prior to the September 30 event ay yung 2013 Bohol earthquake. It was felt as far as Cebu. So yun yung significant doon. And in fact, southern part of Cebu merong the mga damages, but not as devastating as the magnitude 6.9 event last September 30.
And of course, some people are also now worried dito sa Luzon area when it comes to the earthquake situation, considering that we've just seen and experienced one in Cebu, another one in Davao. For those wondering about yung mga connections niya, I know that geographically speaking, yung Pilipinas, in terms of yung mga fault lines nila, they have been a bit more active, or at least noticeable, due to it being populated areas. Should the people in Luzon, the Luzon area, be a bit more worried considering what we've seen in Mindanao and Visayas? Can we expect more movement?
We don't expect more movements just because nagkaroon ng lindol sa Visayas and Mindanao. Okay? So we would expect movements because there are active faults here, so which are independent dun sa active faults from Mindanao and Cebu. So ang iniisip kasi ng mga tao, Luzon na yung next, but in fact, even without the earthquakes in Cebu and Mindanao, pwede pa rin magkaroon ng paglindol dito sa Luzon. So hindi sila, again, they are not connected. The fault that is likely to generate the big one is the West Valley Fault, and it's not connected to the Philippine Trench, which generated the Davao earthquake, as well as the Bogo Bay Fault, which generated the magnitude 6.9 event last September 30th.
Well, you mentioned a few years ago, especially I believe in Davao, you believe early 90s, the last earthquake there, and of course 2013, I believe the last big one felt over in Cebu, starting in Bohol. When we talk about the technology that PHIVOLCS now has in terms of yung monitoring po nila, and of course our ways to actually address this from a scientific perspective to siguro have a better idea of how the seismic movements affect us. Just how has the technology evolved from PHIVOLCS perspective as we take a look at all of these monitoring that we're doing here when it comes to earthquakes?
Okay, so before when early 1990s, we only have few seismic stations, but right now we already have 125 seismic stations. That's the reason why mas marami tayong na-record na earthquake each day. Before early 2000, we only say that the Philippines, we have at least 5 earthquakes a day. Now, that's early 2000. Now, 20 years after, we would say that in our information dissemination campaigns, we would say that we record at least 30 earthquakes a day. Kasi dumadami yung seismic network natin, naging dense. And kahit yung mga maliliit na lindol, nare-record na natin. But of course, this is still not enough. For the size of the Philippines, the ideal would be 300 seismic stations. So, but we're fast tracking the purchase of seismic stations so that we will be able to add more. Kasi nga, the ideal number of seismic stations for our country is 300, and we only have 125.
Well, so Director, just to be clear and just to re-emphasize yung point na to, hindi po dumadami yung mga earthquakes dito sa Pilipinas, but then yung reporting po natin and of course yung monitoring has been more efficient considering the fact that early 2000s you mentioned compared to now 25 years later, napakalaki yung growth of reported earthquakes. Tama po ba yun?
Yes, that's right. That's right. Even in 2013, we only have around 80 seismic stations. Now we have 125. So kaya dumadami yung mga napipick up natin ng mga lindol, but most of these are very small na yung instrumento lang natin yung nakakaramdam.
After a break, a look at how Quezon City is helping families stay disaster ready. Stay with us. Weather HQ will be right back. Hello, you're still watching Weather HQ. I'm Paolo del Rosario. Quezon City recently launched the RESQC Go Bag program, providing emergency kits to families in high-risk areas, starting with communities near waterways and the West Valley Fault. Now, I spoke with Ms. Pichi De Leon from the QCDRRMO about how this initiative is helping build a safer, more prepared community. Here's a sneak peek.
The RESQC Go Bag was conceptualized by the Quezon City Disaster Risk Reduction Management Office in response to the increasing frequency and impact of typhoons, floods, and other hazards that is affecting the city. Most communities, especially those that are living in the hazard-prone areas, are repeatedly experiencing being displaced and at always safety risk during calamities. That's why we came up with the RESQC Go Bag.
Ma'am, if I'm not mistaken, the city describes the Go Bag as, quote, resilient, eco-friendly, and well-equipped. Simulan muna natin sa eco-friendly and of course yung pagka-well-equipped niya. What makes this Go Bag different from the different emergency kits that we've seen distributed around?
Okay, the RESQC Go Bag is designed to be compact, durable, and sustainable. It stands out. We have to make sure that it can be reused and remains functional during emergencies. It stands out because it's environmental friendly and there's practicality also. And every item inside the Go Bag is carefully selected so that and it's based on the actual experiences inside the evacuation center in Quezon City.
Well, ma'am, we're looking at some of the items there. There includes certain cookingware, radio, and of course, raincoat, amongst other things. Could you give us a list po on itemization kung anong laman ng RESQC Go Bag?
Okay, there's the reusable water tumbler, there's first aid kit and medical supplies. There's flashlight, whistle, raincoats, hygiene essentials. There's also the scissor that you can see. There's food ration for initial sustenance. And then there are other also survival essentials that is recommended by QCDRRMO.
Ma'am, a lot of people are wondering online kasi we're taking a look at the kit and you're right, it's very well equipped. A lot of people are wondering why they haven't gotten yung Go Bag nila. How do you determine who receives the bags first? And of course, how can people go about actually claiming them po?
Okay, the RESQC Go Bag, the priority are those families living in the hazard-prone areas and have been previously evacuated. Meaning maybe 3 to 4 times you are already evacuated. So you are in the record also for you have evacuation records also. So that's the first priority. We prioritize also the less fortunate ones who cannot afford to make or provide their own Go Bags. So that's the list. And the criteria is you have to be validated by the SSDD or the Social Security and Development Department of the Quezon City government through the original evacuation record and the original hazard mapping. And then this is coordinated through the Barangay and Community Relations Department and also the barangay officials.
Ma'am, I want to focus here on yung distribution niya because a lot of people are concerned about yung fairness and transparency, making sure that the go bags are distributed to the proper areas? You mentioned po may mga priorities po kayo, but can you give us a example, or rather give us the methodology of making sure that the distribution is both transparent and of course efficient when it comes to giving this to those who need it the most po?
Okay, the distribution is very fair and transparent kasi meron tayong validation process. There are multi-agencies involved for the validation process, namely the SSDD, the QCDRRMO, the Barangay Disaster Risk Reduction Management Committees. They validate the beneficiaries. There's a beneficiary list, and this is check, counter-check, cross-check through the evacuation records. Like what I said kanina, you have to probably 3 to 4 times being evacuated and you stayed in the evacuation center. And there's also the hazard mapping if you are living within the hazard-prone area. So that's the validation process. And the distribution is done on site with attendance sheets and acknowledgement receipts. And you have to attend the seminar. So after the seminar, instead of a certificate, you will receive a certificate. You will receive the RESQC Go Bag.
So in other words, it's not just a distribution po, may education involved in terms
Yes.
of actually distributing these go bags. Tama po ba?
Yes. So in the future, the city aims to widen the coverage of the distribution, probably also the low risk at low risk na mga communities, but that is in the future phase of the distribution. That's a vision of the city aiming that all Q citizens will have their own access to its own go bags, whether it's a city distribution, local sponsorship, or household self setup.
Yes. Ma'am, when we look at the plans, you mentioned in the future phase to distribute it in non-priority areas or those who are not at as high a risk. Do we have a number of how many go bags that have already been distributed? And of course, how often does a local government plan to distribute these go bags?
Okay, the first phase rollout was July to August. We distributed 3,303 go bags. Out of the 3,303, 2,863 were distributed and 900 plus were unclaimed, probably due to beneficiary relocation or the conflict in their schedules. But then the future phase will hopefully distribute to all other at-risk na communities. And hopefully, those that are at risk, ma-reach namin sila by the end of the year.
Ma'am, I'm sure you mentioned around 3,300 go bags were distributed initially, of course, with 900 of them being unclaimed. I am sure there are a lot of people who are facing a bit of anxiety, especially with the recent earthquakes over in Cebu and Davao. What would you suggest to those who are interested in taking their own initiative to actually create their ong go bag? Ano po nga ba ang kailangan para sa isang go bag, emergency kits, and of course, where can they find more education from the local government when it comes to being prepared for any natural disaster?
Okay, the go bag, the list that are essential and needed to be inside the go bag, you can see it online. And the QCDRRMO, we conduct seminars and other workshops and education, community-based. So we go down to the barangays, we do seminars, and part of the seminar is telling them to prepare their own go bag and what to be inside the go bag. Kasi it has to be fitted kung ano yung needs ng your own family. For example, you are 5 in your family, so you have to make sure that the go bag is up for five people in your family. And then if you have babies, you have to put also milk and some toys for the kids. And if you have fur babies, you can also put some food essentials for your pets also. So it's everything there is done online. You can see it online. There are suggestions on how to make your own go bag. So parang in my previous interviews, I have been encouraging the Q citizens na it's actually better. Like myself, I make my own rescue bag or go bag. And then I put also the important documents. I place it in a plastic envelope. so that come there's a emergency, I can just grab it and go to open spaces.
Up next, details about the upcoming 2025 Tsunami Run. Don't go away. Weather HQ. I'll be right back. Hello, you're still watching Weather HQ. Now, in celebration of World Tsunami Awareness Day on November 5, the DOST PHIVOLCS DOST Region 1 and the city of Vigan are leading the 2025 Tsunami Run, a unique event that puts readiness and resilience front and center. To give you more details about this, here's my conversation with Ms. Charmaine Villamil, the geologist and project leader of Tsunami Run 2025.
Let's try to describe first what a tsunami is, no? Tsunami is a Japanese term to refer to waves or series of waves. Ito ay ginagamit para tukuyin ang mga sunod-sunod na alon na karaniwang dulot ng isang malakas na lindol mula sa ilalim ng dagat. Minsan, ang mga tinatawag na submarine landslides o pagguho sa ilalim ng dagat, pati na rin ang pagputok ng mga bulkan na nasa ilalim ng dagat o kaya naman bulkan na napapalibutan ng tubig, sila rin ay nakakalikha ng tsunami. Ngayon, kapag ang lindol na to ay may lakas na magnitude 6.5 pataas at lalim na less than 70 kilometers, ang DOST PHIVOLCS ay naglalabas ng tinatawag na tsunami warning.
Let's talk about yung readiness po ng mga coastal communities po natin. Gaano ka-importante po that yung mga coastal communities natin ay ready for the eventual threat of tsunamis because they are easily the most vulnerable sa population po natin?
Okay. Ito ang isang mahalagang maintindihan natin, no? Yung threat or panganib ng tsunami ay totoo. The threat is real. It happened in the past, like what happened in Moro Gulf noong 1976, almost 50 years ago, no? Nangyari yan, it killed more than 6,000 people, and it may happen again. So kailangan nating ma-realize na tayo na may mga coastal communities. In fact, all the coastal communities of the Philippines are very prone to tsunami, no? So although rare, the impacts could be very devastating. That's why we really have to prepare for them.
Well, World Tsunami Awareness Day is there and celebrated every year. When we talk about yung significance po ito and yung observance niya, what message do you think it aims to promote, considering that the risk is real, as you mentioned a while ago po, and we actually still remember the lives that were lost in the last big tsunami that hit the Philippines?
Okay, the World Tsunami Awareness Day is a UN declaration in December 2015. So Philippines has been organizing activities since 2016. No, the aim of the day or the commemoration is to promote a global culture of tsunami awareness, not just in the Philippines, but this is being observed in other countries.
Yung 2025 Tsunami Run that's happening in the north of the country, can you tell us a bit more about yung event na to and of course how it will educate people and what inspired yung concept na to?
For 2025, DOST PHIVOLCS collaborated with the city of Vigan and DOST Ilocos region to conduct the Tsunami Run on October 25 at 5 o'clock in the morning in Vigan City. This would be the second of its kind. Last year, we had a tsunami run in Mati City, Davao Oriental. This time, it's in the north. We are doing this. It's sort of an advocacy run to raise the awareness and, of course, to promote preparedness thereafter of the coastal communities in Ilocos region who are at risk to the movement of the Manila Trench.
Well, na-mention niyo po yung Mati down south and of course now Vigan. Is there any reason in particular why Vigan it has been chosen for yung run na to?
Okay. Last year, December 2024, there were a series of earthquakes. We call it earthquake swarm offshore of Ilocos Sur. So we received, maybe you've seen posts, social media posts, news about people fearing about the threat of tsunami. So we wanted to allay the fear, no? Gawin natin bigyan sila ng tamang impormasyon para not necessarily matakot sila, but rather sila ay maghanda para sa threat ng tsunami na to. So in fact, before the run in October 25, we've done a series of information campaign in August and September of this year for the 58 coastal cities and municipalities of the entire Region 1. And aside from this, just last week, this Monday, October 14, Tuesday, October 14, we conducted an orientation for the barangays, barangay officials, community volunteers in the 18 coastal cities and municipalities of Ilocos Sur. So, bukod sa highlight ng run on October 25, meron na tayong ginawang series of information campaign to teach the people that what a tsunami is and what are the hazards and how to prepare for them. So this is just a highlight, no? And although we've partnered with Vegan, this run is open to everyone.
Yes. Ma'am Charmaine, if I'm not mistaken, because right now I'm looking at all the posters and I'm looking at all of the material, 5 kilometers po yung ina-advertise po ninyo. And normally, yung mga fun run or yung mga more serious runs, may mga 10, 21, so on and so forth. But then, bakit importante yung 5K na to? Because if I'm not mistaken, very intentional po yung design na to.
Okay. Kumbaga, ano lang siya, we want to make it just a fun run, a fun way of learning and teaching. Kasi pag 10K yan, parang baka mapagod lang sila and hindi nila ma-absorb yung real essence ng ginagawa natin na tsunami advocacy run. So, yun. And the route is mainly showing them, no, the safe areas, which areas have to be avoided when there's a threat of tsunami, when the tsunami warning is raised by PHIVOLCS. So saan sila palayo dapat sa tabing dagat, going inland, no? There should be perpendicular roads away from the shoreline towards high grounds or towards part of the area where it is already safe from tsunami waves.
Does actually moving 5 kilometers inland, is that enough to avoid yung tsunami po?
Yeah, we made sure that the route from the finish line up to from the starting line to the finish line, ang dadaanan nila ay safe. No? Hindi natin nilagay yung route doon sa hazard-prone area kasi baka ma-familiarize sila dun sa mali. So nilagay natin siya dun sa tamang daan.
And that's a wrap on this week's Weather HQ. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Paolo del Rosario. We'll see you again next week, only here on BNC, the Bilyonaryo News Channel. Have a great weekend.